what happens with the conversation.
Yeah, that's fine.
I've just learned that if you don't record it, you don't get a second chance to record it. And sometimes people are like, what did you say? And I share, I wind up sharing maybe a little more than half of the conversations I have like this. So.
Okay, cool. I mean, whatever you want to do with it's fine. My mom introduced me to you. And so if you share it, she'll watch it. And I don't know that anybody, actually, I met two Bridges Meeting people a couple weeks ago at church that recently got married. And so that tripled my Paul Vanderklee. Well, I guess if you count my wife, that doubled the people I know that listen to you. So do whatever you want with it. It's fine.
Okay. Well, you've got a start of an estuary then, if you actually know people in person. So
yeah, I mean, it was funny. I've been attending I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've been attending an Orthodox church here the last couple months. I left my little note. We left the Episcopal church, and there's a couple getting married. There's an inquirers class I've been going to on Saturday, and they're getting married the next day. And the woman, I met her several months ago when I first visited the church anyway, and said, how'd you meet? It's like, well, there's this internet pastor, we met online, this internet pastor, no one's ever heard of him out in California. I was like, oh, I know exactly who you're talking about. I was listening to him on the way over here, the Q&A. It's like, and I don't do the social media thing, Paul. I don't have a Facebook. It kind of bothers me, scares me. And
it should.
Yeah. I had a Facebook account back when I was in college, when it was the Facebook, and this is like, for a month, I was like, okay, this is kind of a waste of time. And that was it. So, my wife uses it to, talk to family and everything, but anyway, so it was funny because I talked about Vanderklee for a little bit, and, anyway, so there you go.
Oh, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, or, whatever you'd like to do with your time?
Well, yeah. I don't know where to start. I'm 35, live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, married, high school sweetheart. We've been married for 13 years now. We're together for 5 years before that. Got a little 3-year-old daughter. Well, she's going to turn 3 in October, which is a blast. It's great. I've lived in Oklahoma my whole life. We went to college, grew up in a smaller city in Southwest Oklahoma, and moved up to Tulsa for college, and we've been here since. And been working in the oil and gas business. Got a petroleum engineering degree, but I'm trying to figure. That's part of what I want to talk. I'm trying to figure out what else to do with the rest of my life, because that's not really working out the way I thought. That's fine, but kind of religious background. Grew up United Methodist. Went to church as a kid. Started at a small church that my father's mother, my grandmother, who was real active in raising me too, always around. It was a church she'd gone to for several years. I think she'd gone shortly after it was established, and went every Sunday, Sunday school. Actually went to daycare there when I was a little kid, and then moved whenever, kind of, early teens. Moved to a larger UMC church in the city in Altus, Oklahoma, and went. But man, just never. Seemed like it was pretty watered down. I think that's kind of what you get in mainlines growing up in the 90s, right? I served as an acolyte, and went through confirmation class. I think I was one of just a couple of boys that did that. And, but never really, I don't guess I just got real solid roots in the faith. And this, in high school, kind of probably sporadically attended, sometimes with my mom on Sunday. I went to youth group a little bit, but never really got into that. And really drifted away in college, like everybody does, right? Happens a lot, at least, not everybody, but
happens a lot.
Happens a lot. And I didn't really. It wasn't actively trying to move away or anything like that. It just happened. And like I said, it's the parable of the sower there and shallow roots, I guess. And then I don't, catechesis in a lot of denominations is a problem, right? That. But anyway, said with my wife through college, and we attended a handful of times, and I think I got really to the point, I would go with my grandmother on Christmas Eve, go back home, and family Christmas, and we go to. That's probably when I would attend, the only time of year, and I stopped taking communion at some point because I don't really I won't say that I don't believe in this, but I think it actually means something that I'm not participating in right now, and it seemed a little dangerous, And but anyway, so did that. Got the workforce, graduated college. Got married in 08, which was the same year we graduated college. Graduated in December, so we got married in August. And really, church didn't enter in at all. I worked as a engineer for a couple oil companies, and just my dad was a farmer, and I grew up hanging out with him outside some, and I just it drove me nuts being in office all the time, and I kind of moved to more field-based roles, and I was away from home a lot doing that. Did a lot of working away from home, and church didn't really enter into the thing, and then back in 2014, I had been working for several months. I was drilling oil wells in the Oklahoma, Texas Panhandle area, and I would go out there and watch a rig, do some stuff, manage operations. By this point, I was working as a contractor consultant, which is pretty common in the business, and I would spend a lot of time by myself. Whenever we had a little downtime, I'd get home and hang out with the wife for a while, and I think I started doing that like November of 2013 timeframe, and started really, especially, I was doing a lot of driving, a lot of thinking, and I was filling a hole, and knew something needed to be there. I didn't really know what that was, and then figured out my wife was pregnant at the time, and that was cool. That was neat. Okay, hey, this is something, and still doing that. My mother's aunt died. She had her funeral in March of 2014, and it was at a little bitty Episcopal church in a small town in southeast Oklahoma. And went there. And it's like, oh wow, this is something, and it's more. Obviously the United Methodist. They share a very recent common ancestor, right? And but it was just the liturgy, and it really spoke to me. It's like, okay, this is something that I've been kind of missing out on, and got interested in it. And I would be out doing the oil field stuff for the next several weeks, and I'd drive by a church, and I would just kind of have this little pull of, I ought to visit there, and I didn't. And then anyway, in April and I guess the end of March, my wife was 21 weeks pregnant and had basically membrane rupture, lost fluids, ended up in the hospital, and our daughter was stillborn a few days later, and it was hard. It was tough, and it's I know it's hard to talk about. Sorry,
no, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, but no. So anyway, it was kind of at the point there that like this came together, and okay, there is a meaning here beyond the materiality, and saw my daughter, and it was just okay. This is like real life. This is real. Things matter more beyond what's in front of us, and so we wife got discharged from the hospital on a Saturday, I think, and then we went to my mom was in town, and she was really helpful through all this, and she kind of we'd been talking about even before it happened with my wife in a few weeks, like, hey, that service with your aunt there, that was Episcopal church. That's really interesting, and so we went and visited on a Sunday to a fairly large high church here in Tulsa, and just I didn't really have any idea of what I was doing. Got approached by a young there's a curate there at the time. He's been a pretty decent friend of mine through the years. He's in the Navy now as a chaplain, but what are you guys doing here? It's like my mom says, well, we just pretty much had the worst week ever, and he ended up performing a funeral for my daughter, and just started showing up to church and going, and I took some time off just to be with my wife, trying to kind of process through all that, and then I got a contract job working in town, actually, just so I wasn't gone, because I wasn't gonna do that to my wife. She needed to be around, and we started showing up. And that's kind of when I realized, okay, a big part of this is showing up. it's participating, right? I mean, like obvious stuff that I didn't get, right?
Yeah,
like, why do people do all this? Well, because it matters, right? And so I did and stuck with it. We did that. Like I said, that was 2014. Kept going, learning more, showing up at the church, got received into the church. I mean, I was baptized as kids. So my wife and I, we got confirmed, confirmed. I mean, not straight up received. Went through a really, really, really watered down catechesis that, and I don't mean this in any cruelty, but I mean, it was there's a woman, she's really a good person, but taught this Inquirers Seekers class. And I mean, talking to my wife, I mean, I think what we remember is, well, we spent several Sundays in a row talking about water, and well, okay. I mean, and not a whole lot about Jesus. And I mean, it's Episcopal church. It's where the mainline church is at this point. And then really I think it got to kind of the first part of 2017. And it was like after the inauguration of Trump, I think after the fourth sermon about Donald Trump, it's like, okay, what are we doing here? You know, I mean, I'm a strange guy politically, Paul. I mean, I live in Oklahoma. I mean, I'm kind of a redneck from Southwest Oklahoma.
We should, in church, you should hear more about Jesus than Trump.
Yeah, you gotta hear about Jesus, you know. And then the Jesus we did was like, well, what was Jesus really thinking during this time? Like, oh, I mean, I don't know, but anyway, so we kind of we left that church, and I mean, we would attend from time to time. And then there's a little Acna church here in town I'd go to some. There's another Episcopal church. They're even more progressive than this one, but they had a beautiful evensong, and I'd go check that out. It was fun. And I mean, I'm not really, you know, except participating in liturgy. And then anyway, there had been an assistant priest that was bivocational at that church who was assigned another church, a smaller church in Tulsa. I think it's probably pretty close to Livingstone size. I mean, what's your average Sunday attendance? Like 70, 80?
Now,
before the end of the world, right?
Before the end of the world, it's probably between 40 and 70.
Okay. So that's that. We weren't terribly far away from that at this church. And he baptized my daughter, and then pretty quick after that, because my other daughter, my wife, got pregnant again. I mean, that was, you know, that whole first thing terrified me, and so it took me a few years to try that again. And we did, and we got a beautiful little girl, and she's great. She's wonderful. Her name's Hannah. So we ended up kind of at the kind of mid part of 2019. This assistant priest, who I really respected, and good guy, started going. He took this smaller church over in Tulsa, and we started going. And it was in the first Episcopal church we attended was in a wealthy neighborhood and had very healthy, you know, a lot of rich people that went there. And you know, this other one's not. And so it was in a, you know, more of a working class neighborhood. I mean, probably a neighborhood that declined for several years, and it's probably kind of starting to be on the upswing, such as Tulsa is. And man, I got involved. I showed up. You know, they did a meal for the homeless on Saturdays, or excuse me, they prepare on Saturdays and serve on first Tuesday of the month. And I did that, and just, it's kind of like, you know, you step in and, you know, new priest. I mean, the first Sunday he took over, he sent me an email, hey, I'm going to be here, and it's great, you know, we'll show up and go. And we did. And it was just, you got involved. I ended up, it's a mission church. So, you know, Episcopal church, you've got the vestry, right? Church council, whatever. And so, you know, at a mission church, they call it the Bishop's Committee, but it's the same thing. Just because, you know, we were self-supporting, but couldn't pay a full-time rector. So that's what we had. And got involved, got on the Bishop's Committee. You know, was lay reading. I mean, just really like one of these things of being part of a community, and especially a small church really offers that. It's like, so before COVID, I think we got, our peak was probably around 100 on a bishop's visit. So, you know, more people showed up and they brought family and everything, but we were probably running 70-ish, 80-ish. And I mean, get to the point the parking lot was full, and, you know, maybe I go, what do we do whenever parking lot fills up? That'd be neat. And, you know, made a lot of friends, a lot of older folks. I mean, a lot of times my wife and I would probably bring the average age down a ways, and we had a kid that was showing up, and then, you know, COVID happened last year, and like, I mean, I kind of been following the news in China, and it's like, guys, I think this might be a big deal. And I talked to the priest, and so I think we need to start kind of preparing for something. And then it just shut down. The bishop shut down the diocese, and church shut down, didn't know what to do. I mean, we did Zoom for a while. Were you guys doing Zoom church, I think?
No, we didn't do Zoom. My people couldn't handle Zoom at that
point.
Well,
I mean, most of our people couldn't either, but some of them figured it out. It was fun, man. I mean, the Zoom church was really entertaining because it was.
Did Zoom church, so we just basically streamed.
Okay, and we got into that later on, but just stayed with it and participated, and then I ended up regular Zoom services, and anyway, I ended up as the junior warden, which is like the kind of the second. Okay, yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, second lay leader, and I've had issues. I mean, I'm pretty traditional theologically. I'm not arrogant enough to say I've got everything figured out, because I don't feel like I do, but I think I've got a general idea of what's right and what's not. And we had a little bit of a problem at our church where it had been so far as Episcopal Church in Oklahoma is, this is a fairly conservative traditional congregation, and we had welcome. I mean, they still exist in the main line. I didn't know if you. I mean, a lot of people don't even realize that that's a thing. Yeah, right?
It's true. They do. It is. It's some of the news around them in some cases is difficult because, but they're still out there. Conservative mainline churches are still out there. It's true.
They are. Well, and that's where we are. And about a year ago, and we were still doing. We had just kind of planning the return to online to in-person services, and I'm not even sure exactly who in the diocese assigns these, but we were, asked to take on a seminarian. Cool, and he's a gay man, and I don't like using the term married, and it's not because I hateful towards gay people. I just don't think it's appropriate. Does that make sense?
I understand.
Okay, and yeah, he's, I guess, so he was in a partnership and was married in the church, and so. I didn't have a problem with that as such. Like, hey, I mean, he's a seminarian. He's going to figure this out. I mean, goodness, I mean, I'm a terrible sinner. I can't really start judging I got to take the log out of my own eye, right? And I was fine. We lost a person that had been very involved in the church for years. I mean, she grew up in that church, and she was on the vestry too, and she left. And really had her own story was not that she hated gay people. She had a brother that died of AIDS, and she cared for him in his last days. And she just didn't think that was what we needed to do. And I mean, we rocked along, we're going. And then back in June, I mean, we had a vestry meeting, and we had a lot of items to deal with. Are we going to do VBS? Well, I mean, okay, whatever. Vote on that. Are we going to return to the common cup at the Eucharist? Yeah, we need to do that. I think we need to do that. If you don't want to, you receive in one form, that's fine. And we voted on these things like committee does. I mean, it's not quite like the CRC, right? I mean, it's the rector or vicar. I mean, he's got some dictatorial abilities, but there's congregational administration of the parish too. I mean, there's Bishop's Committee. I mean, I was a guy that, I'm pretty handy. I do some little handyman work on the side. So I chuckled here a while back. You're talking about having meeting an electrician to change out a GFCI recep, right? And so my wife, she's got a little, very part-time small job. She manages some rental houses. It provides some income, and it's kind of interesting. But I do all the handyman work on them. So a few days before that, we'd replaced a fridge in a house. And it wasn't, it was kicking the GFCI, like, what in the world's going on here? And so I actually learned, hey, and then a few days after that, you had that. It's like, yeah, I know what Paul's talking about there. That's cool. so anyway, all that to say, I was kind of that guy because junior warden traditionally Episcopal Church kind of takes care of the maintenance of the physical plant. And it's a small church, so we didn't have anybody that did that. But anyway, so we're going down the agenda, and then we talk about the participation in the Pride Parade and the Tulsa Pride Parade. We're going to meet up at such and such place. And do we have a banner? And there was no vote. There's no discussion. It's like, this is what we're going to do because, and man, I mean, it's like, oh, Paul, I felt physically ill because like, I don't think that's what we need to be doing. it just doesn't seem like that would be, I don't think that's what a church ought to, I mean, it would be one thing. Hey, do we meet up and it's kind of become this new national holiday, I guess. But I mean, if we regularly marched in the Veterans Day Parade or the Independence Day Parade or whatever, I mean, okay, we march in parades because that's what we do as a church. No, we don't. We don't do anything like that at all. We never done. I mean, I've only been there, for a few years, but I was like, I got a hard time dealing with this. I got a problem with this. And it just bothered me that, we discussed and voted every other thing, but this is just something that we're going to do. And I thought about it. I prayed about it. I talked to this good friend of mine who's a naval chaplain, talked to family, prayed some more. And I was like, I can't be a part of this. And I resigned my position as warden. At the end of the week, I sent an email to the senior warden and to our priest. It's, I laid out what I did, and I mean, here's what I'm thinking, guys. I don't think this is appropriate. I mean, along all this, I got some serious problems with what the Episcopal Church is practicing, and the theology of it in general. And I think there's some hazard there, and it was tough, but I left. I'm not even sure that I hope I did the right thing. I mean, I did. And anyway, we kind of in this transitional thing, and we've been attending an Orthodox church lately, and I don't know. I mean, I was thinking, well, I mean, I'm a real presence guy. I mean, I think Christ is really present in the Eucharist. I've kind of been going through. I mean, I think you had a couple of months ago, somebody asked you, when do we end the protest? And I've kind of had these thoughts going myself too, and so I didn't really. I don't know. So I've been doing that, and then so that's transitional. It's been weird. I'm not trying to work through that. And then career-wise, I mean, when I was doing the consulting work, I had a pretty successful little practice built up. And I was doing that. I was making a decent living, even through, we had a pretty good little oil bust in 2015 and 16. And I'd actually got a job. I was managing some stuff for a bank, and I'd worked kind of as a contractor for several years. Just, I'd find some clients and do work. Project would end, and I'd find another one. And I ended up kind of getting in a business partnership with a guy I went to college with that I was pretty decent friends. We started a little company, raised some money, and did this, put a lot of work into it. And then kind of, it's like one of those things. And I kind of ended up, I guess my business partner, I kind of figured out he had maybe a very flexible moral compass, might be the way to put it. And I realized this was going to be over for me, because I mean, he'd had we'd sat down at some point and said, the problem with you is you're always worried about doing the right thing, in air quotes, just like that. It's like, oh yeah, well, yeah. And a few months later, it ended up like kind of just completely blown up, and I got fired from my own company. And I mean, I had money in it that I got out. So I mean, I'm not crying in my beer about it. It could have ended a lot worse. I mean, I kind of got my investment back out, and I got paid pennies on the dollar. And then it's made it kind of hard in an industry that's challenged anyway, and it's hard to work. I mean, I'm pretty much at a place where I'm not very employable. I mean, it's not like it's a real employable business anyway, but I'm really not. Last year and a half, so I've been working for a friend of mine. Primarily, I just operate oil wells on a day-to-day basis. I mean, it's kind of like skilled labor type job. I mean, nothing I thought I'd be doing in my 30s. It's cool. I mean, I'd be fine doing this. It's not a long-term deal. I mean, there's another guy that works at this little company, and we kind of jokingly refer to it as an oil and gas charity, because it seems to exist to pay the two of us a salary. And I like it. I really appreciate it. But we know it just can't go on. Like we either got to grow the business or figure out something else to do. So anyway, it's
charity.
Yeah, kind of funny, man. I don't know, but I mean,
are prices a little better now? I mean, is the industry? Yeah. I mean, gas prices are higher, so I figure the industry should be picking up again.
Oil prices are better. I mean, what had happened? It's not even really worth talking about. I mean, what had gone on with the domestic oil and gas business in the last decade was just largely a financial scam of, hey, let's pour $100 down a hole and we'll get $90 back out, and we'll tell people we're making a lot of money, and we go to Wall Street and they give us more money, right? So I mean, it's kind of like capitalism in America these days, right? I guess it's just a manifestation of that. But anyway, man, I mean, so I've kind of been, got to this deal of like, well, I mean, my wife's wonderful. I'm really blessed in the woman I'm married to. I've got an awesome little kid, but I have no idea what I'm going to do for a living for the next 30 or 40 years. And trying to work out this church thing. And, I've kind of been on this meaning crisis deal for a while. I'm sorry, man. I've just been talking the entire time.
You keep going. You're doing fine. You're doing fine.
Okay. Well, so I started listening to you. My mom, she had got into Jordan Peterson before it was really much of a thing. And she had sent me some stuff and a book. And it's like, okay, this is kind of cool, but not really my deal. And then she had found you shortly after Jordan Peterson, and she's been listening and watching your videos for a long time. And I really got into you back in, I guess it would have been February of last year. And I thought, this guy's really interesting. He's way more interesting than Peterson. I mean, for me anyway. And actually, at just listening to some of your stuff, I went through. I gave the biblical series a real shot. And okay, this is cool. There's a lot here. And I got into some more of the Peterson stuff. And I've been working through the Vervaeke meaning crisis. But man, you give me a lot of, so the kind of work I do, I drive up, I'm by myself all day. I check on oil wells. I fix stuff that's broke.
Need a lot of stuff to listen, a lot of time to listen to. A lot of stuff
to listen to. And I listen to you a lot. And
thank you.
Yeah, I listen to Jordan Peterson, and then I listen to, there's some other podcasts I like. Sometimes things you kind of allude to. It's like, I'll check that out and see what I think. The Mars Hill thing, I was like, I don't know that I'll get into that. It's like, okay, well,
not everybody needs to go down every rabbit trail I go down. That's for sure.
I know it's interesting. It's like, this is the world I've never been a part of in any way, so I really don't understand all the interplay. But anyway, so I really value what you bring, and I really sincerely appreciate what you do, and then the time you put into this, and so I really liked last year whenever you were following the RCL, right?
I'll get back into it come Advent. We'll be back in the lectionary. It'll be cool. Paul. It'll be Paul until then, but
and I'm loving the Paul stuff too. So last year it was great because I would I'd listen to your rough draft, and a lot of times I'd listen to it on a lot of times I'd listen to it on Sunday morning cooking breakfast, and then we'd do our online church or whatever, and then I'd listen to our priest preach about the same thing, and I could tie the two together. Oh man, it was so useful. So it was cool. I really enjoyed it, and it really opened up. And I like that. And then really, you did a sermon on First Peter, and you're talking about the epithemia, and I remember that. It was just kind of contrasting that with what I was getting. Because I guess, it seems to me, I don't know. The Episcopal Church seems like it's sort of abolished sin in any other way other than like social sin, right? And there's a real hazard, obviously, there. That's that.
There is corporate, public sin and justice. There's
yes.
that, but there's also personal, private, internal sin, and it's and that's part. I was thinking about this week because we've got all these substitute words instead of sin, and I can understand that, but part of the benefit of using that word sin is it is so broad.
It is.
And it's also a little abstract because there are certainly lots of sins, and we can use lots of other words for it. But it's really helpful to have a word like that sort of puts it together. So
and missing the mark. Trying to think of it like that's kind of brought a little new dimension to that. It's, okay, this is really, the word matters. And and the acknowledgement that we are fallen, and that one thing that's really kind of, just trying to learn about orthodoxy, and if this is, I like a lot of it, man. The icons make me a little nervous.
Yet? Because, unlike the mainline, Orthodox will likely have a very rigorous, significant catechesis if you decide to go that route.
Oh, I've started it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I haven't been received. I haven't, started as a catechumen formally, but basically, they have a catechesis class I've been going to, and it's sort of, I guess, open enrollment, you might say. It's just, rolling and, just
Oh,
go.
okay.
And
Okay.
and and I have, I mean, and one thing that's just kind of really been useful in that is this idea that they've got, and I mean, and this is not just Orthodox idea, but I mean, it's just never really been explained to me as well, that you either choose the good or you choose the evil. You can't just hang out in the middle. It doesn't work like that. And I think maybe that's part of what we've got in a mainline Christianity, or maybe just modern American postmodern Christianity. I don't know if you can just ride this middle, and we show up and we get involved in the right social issues, and we don't talk about the ugly things that it's I don't know. I mean, I really, and I'm trying to figure it out, and I mean, I've started praying the office early last year, and I do it in the morning by myself, and then my wife and I do it at night, and that's usually when our daughter falls asleep, and we that participatory thing there's goodness, I mean, that's really, it doesn't just, I mean, at least for me, there was no moment of like, I went from whatever I was to I'm a Christian, and you show up, you do it, you pray, you participate in liturgy, and it kind of happens. I mean, it was just really, I don't know that there's any, one single Kierkegaardian leap of faith for me. I mean, maybe that leap of faith is going and showing up. I don't know. I mean, what do you think? But I mean, it's not.
Well, it's clearly, I mean, you're clearly working through stuff, and you've seen a lot of stuff now. And your story isn't unusual. It's unique, of course, but it's not unusual in some of the broad sweeps. The United Methodist was a hugely significant, popular, and important church throughout the middle part of the country. The Episcopalian Church is another enormous American church. These mainline churches are enormous, and but the issues you're dealing with are, and you're asking good questions. And now, obviously the Orthodox are in some ways a new player on the scene in America. But they're a very, they're very ancient church, very credible church. They've got a lot of integrity, especially in America, it seems. And so, we're all working through these issues, and you've not only got, so you had a stillborn child. You've got some pretty significant employment questions right now. You're working in an industry that, it's, if you're a coder in, in one of the coasts, well, that's kind of even that's disruptive. I mean, there's a ton of disruption going on right now in our systems. And part of the reality is that your biological life, you have a new daughter, you are looking for stability. Because you're a good father and you love your daughter and you want to do the best for your daughter, and you're committed to your wife and you love your wife, and you are looking for stability, or you're looking to figure out your world. You're looking to manage your insides. And we're living at a point in time right now where there's not a lot of off the shelf answers that you could just sort of slide into and have the world settle down.
Right.
It's not going to be that way. And so what that means is you're going to be in a season of learning to trust, learning to trust God for your daily bread, learning to trust God for your employment, learning to trust God for your relationships, learning to trust God that, okay, I've been in the Methodist, I've been in the Episcopal, now we're talking to the Orthodox. The Pride Parade, we didn't do the Veterans Parade. Why the Pride? Isn't that telling me something about what the values of the church are? Yes, it is. Isn't that telling me something about the structure of the church? Yes, it is. Yeah. And, to not necessarily wade in on one side of this, you do have an opinion. You do have a, you do have a choice as to whether or not to participate in that church or not to participate in that church. I mean, you got to work all these things through. And you're certainly not alone, because in many ways, the kinds of disruption, now COVID on top of it, the
Yeah.
kinds of disruption, the kinds of things that are going on right now at many different layers means, yeah, you've got to make sense of the world. You have a sense of meaning. You knew that when, you had a stillborn child, that this was meaningful and this is significant. You might not be able to articulate everything why all the way down, but you felt it.
Yeah.
And you were honest with yourself, and what you need. And your mother, she was a good support. You knew you had to take some time off and, support your wife. I mean, all of this is built into you. And so you're looking around, looking for a community to say, I need to be part of a community that has a bigger picture of the world that makes sense, that I can inhabit and live in responsibly, meaningfully, morally. You've got to make sense of your life.
Yeah.
And so your transitions are all part of this journey and this quest. And, it sounds to me like, yeah, you're certainly in process, but you're doing the work, you're doing the right thing. You're working on it. And
I'm trying to, I mean, we lived below our means for a while. I mean, we got good savings. Ended up making, we sold our house last year. I actually had taken a job in Texas and sold our house, and I got down there for a week. It's like, oh my goodness, I got into something I had no idea. This is not what I thought I was doing. So yeah, that doesn't matter. We're in a place. Real estate's like nuts right now. So, but
yeah,
we can live pretty cheap. We got savings. There's so many people in such a worse place. It's not like I can be fine for a while. I just trying to figure out, where do I go from here? Do I go back to school? I thought about going to law school. I took the LSAT. I did good enough to, at least, I think I can get tuition scholarship at probably like a, third tier law school. Like we've got a law school here at University of Tulsa where I went to undergrad. I think I could get a decent scholarship there, but I don't know. Seems like kind of the ideology that has pervaded that whole part of the working world might be difficult to deal with. I don't know that I want to put up with that. I might rather, swing a hammer and change out water heaters.
You're looking for God to lead you.
I am, man. I am. And I guess just trying to learn to trust that.
Yeah.
How do you get that? How do you know is that God, or is that just what I want to do, or somebody else, or whatever?
You're working through the hard questions.
Yeah,
part of why I do this channel is, let's say 100 years ago, someone living in about the same situation, about the same locale as you, might in a much less, I'll use fancy words, cross-pressured way, just be able to sit down and say, I'm looking for God to lead me, and I'm looking to trust. And that's what you're looking for. And now I can talk lots of different sides of, okay, what do we mean by looking for God to lead me? And can we believe this? And is this credible? And there's a meaning crisis, and there's skeptics and all of that. But I don't know that there's any better way to conceptualize it than exactly that. And as a pastor, I shouldn't even, because not just as a pastor, as me, that I think is exactly the right language to have. And I think it's exactly the right approach to take, to say, okay, Lord, I've got these anxieties, I've got a degree that I'm not really being able to use right now. We've got our daily bread right now, but I've got a new daughter, and the industry is such as this, and I don't know what to do. And so I think the best thing to do is to continue to do what you're doing, which is to get on your knees and say, okay, Lord, and then to sort of situate yourself. And you say, well, how am I situated in the universe? Well, here's one way to talk. I'm a child of God.
Yeah.
And I'll use, the language of my theological tradition. The Heidelberg Catechism begins, I am not my own, but belong body and soul, in life and in death, to my faithful Savior, Jesus Christ, who has fully paid for all my sins with his precious blood. and has delivered me from the tyranny of the devil. And now I want to serve him. Now I don't know the details of this, but I am going to rest in God's love as a child of God. And even though I've got way more questions, and again, now with a daughter, you understand fully, you know a lot more about this world than your daughter. And your daughter doesn't sit there and say, oh no, where's our next meal coming from? You know why? Because you and your wife are doing it. And now you want your daughter to have not any anxiety about where her next meal is coming from, right? You want your daughter to, how old is your daughter now?
She's going to turn 3 in October.
Okay. You want your daughter, putting things in and out of cups. You want your daughter playing with sand and water.
Learning ABC, letters and sound.
Your daughter coming to you and saying, Daddy, are we going to eat tomorrow? You would tell your daughter, I don't want you to worry about that at all. Daddy will take care of you. And so, so then we project that out and say, okay. And so what do? Do you go to your Heavenly Father and say, give us this day our daily bread? And your Heavenly Father says, I'll take care of you. And I might not give you always what you want, but I'll give you what you need. And I love you, and you're in my hand. And so then, with church, with catechesis, with the daily office, with your relationship with your wife, you continue to reinforce this and say, okay, Lord, you've promised to take care of me. You've promised to give me my daily bread. And we've got our daily bread now, but I am responsible for my daughter and my wife. And so lead me and guide me and show me the way. And then be open and believe that, it might not be an audible voice. It might not be a bolt out of the blue, but trust him that he will continue the work that he has started in you. And, listening to you, I believe that's what is happening in you. And so you're going to experience anxiety.
Yeah.
But when you are anxious, you go to him and say, okay, Lord, just like if your daughter would say, I'm scared. And you tell your daughter, when you're scared, you come to me. Okay. If you're scared about something, tell me. And, maybe your daughter should be scared about things. If you're out
there's
there
things that are
hiking
worth
and
being
there's a
scared of.
rattlesnake, be scared of that rattlesnake.
Exactly.
That's what fear is for. But, I think, when I'm listening to you, this is what I'm hearing, that, hey, you're exactly right. You don't know everything. I sure don't know everything. My channel is me wondering about a lot of stuff out loud. I got a lot of questions, but when you ask, okay, how do I need to live? Well, then we take the example of Jesus teaches us he's your Heavenly Father. Okay. You can learn from this parent-child relationship. And now that you've got a daughter, your daughter will be schooling you in this relationship. Now, from this day forward until the day you die, your daughter will be teaching you what it means to be a parent. And,
right.
But it sounds to me that, that God has been working in your life. And
I feel so. And I feel so very blessed. I really do. Like a lot of people, one thing that really formed me in the faith is mere Christianity and Lewis's idea there. And I actually read The Great Divorce the other day, and that was pretty good. I kind of miss that.
That's an interesting book.
It is. It really is that. And, it's an interesting book. Yeah.
There's a guy on the Discord he's got a little YouTube channel. He's reading the book and talking about it on his YouTube channel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You can find him on the Discord server. He'll probably leave a comment. He watches most of my videos, but that's part of why I do this, because I know exactly who you bumped into. And because I know
they're great people. It was really fun to talk to them. I said, I'm going to try and get a rando slot with Paul. I have been for a while here,
I know it's hard to get. I'm sorry about that, but I'm glad you got one.
Thank you.
But it's we need to encourage each other, and part of the reason I'm not an atheist is because what I just shared with you can't say if you're an atheist. The universe is morally neutral and everything's just chaos and Bucko, it's up to you.
down. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I kind of I'm sort of acting as if that's partly true because I am responsible and I get up in the morning and I'm worried about my daughter and all that, but you don't have anything to offer me really.
Right.
And that's what I think, the Christian faith clearly has to offer. And, millions of people who have lived it that say it's trustworthy and it's good, and we'll encourage each other along the way.
And you'd had something, I don't know, several months ago, I don't know, it was a Q&A or what. I mean, addressing the question of, why am I still in the pastor in the CRC? And it's like, well, I haven't been able to find anybody better to follow than Jesus Christ. And I mean, that's kind of my, okay, well, I mean, I can't really find anybody better to follow than Jesus. And I mean, it's, not really easy, but I mean, just even the materialistic atheist argument there, just, it's, pure chaos and accident and just, it's determinism and everything. To why am I talking to Paul Vanderklay right now? It was all four. I don't. Yeah, that seems a pretty shallow, pointless, nihilistic existence. My goodness. I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, that's nothing really. I mean, why embrace that? Why? I don't know. That's not. I mean, I don't know. But
if I'm wrong and that's the reality, it's still a lousy choice. That's my point with it. Why would I live into that?
Yeah.
Some noble quest for truth. The universe doesn't care. That universe that you tell me doesn't care about my noble quest for truth at all.
Yeah.
So what? So my neighbors think more of me? Pride? I mean, none of those things make sense to me. So
I'm with you, and I guess that's just why I find you so dang interesting. Really, I mean, it's and what's going on, and who you talk to, and I mean, I like your randos conversations. It was funny. So I get the guys I work for, they hire me out to a little service company to fill in. I go run downhole tools and oil wells. Sometimes I did this yesterday. I was out in West Texas, and so you had a conversation, a few weeks back with that young woman. It's French Canadian, and just talking about the Catholic Church in French Canada. So anyway, so I'm out here in West Texas on a location in the middle of the desert. It's hot, and there's a guy I was talking to that's a safety guy, and he grew up South Louisiana. He's in his 50s, and grew up in this Cajun country. I mean, he's got a French last name, and just started talking about that. I was like, this is some random Paul Vanderklay conversation there, and I'm having an interesting conversation with a guy from South Louisiana about the Catholic Church and French Canadians and the removal of the Canadians and the what's going on there. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, I mean, it's so that's kind of why I like you. And I don't. That's the deal. I mean, I know there's just no like cut and dry answers. I get to thinking, man, I mean, I feel sometimes I've made some serious decisions that's got to me to this place where I'm kind of in somewhat of a pickle, and what do I do? And, I mean, it's easy to kind of get bogged down in that, and get bitter about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it
doesn't do any good. You're getting bitter about it doesn't help you. It
doesn't really do any good.
But no, so no, and that's why, finally, I think the Christian faith is about trust.
I do too. And you talk that misery, deliverance, gratitude. That's something I'm kind of working through. I was just thinking earlier too. I mean, obviously that's a big theme in the Reformed theology, right? And, it's faith, and I guess that's what that offers. And
we don't have a lot of time left because I have someone coming out. Would you like me to pray for you? Because I'd be happy to pray for you.
Oh, I would. I certainly would. Thank you.
Okay. Let me pray for you. Lord, I thank you that this Monday I decided I'd have time this week to do some randos conversations, and I thank you that Nathan got a slot and that we were able to meet today. And I thank you, Lord, for this little story where he met some of these other friends that the channel has in his little Orthodox church. And Lord, I thank you for his story and that he's sharing it with us. Because Lord, I think there are many others who, they might not have all the same elements of the story that he has, but the patterns of the story are there. And Lord, he's got a 3-year-old daughter. He's got a wife. The job situation has been not exactly what he'd expected. He's had a lot of transitions in churches because he's trying to find a place where he can settle in and rest, and a place where he can grow in you. And so, Lord, I pray for him and his family, and I ask, Lord, that you would give him rest for his soul. And I pray, Lord, that you give him an assurance of your love for him that will encourage him to continue to grow in trusting you, and to find ways to grow in being your disciple. So be with him, Lord. Give him your spirit. Bless his wife, bless his daughter, bless the church that he is now attending. And I pray, Lord, that you would help him, Lord, discern what the next steps are for him in terms of employment, in terms of caring for his family, and being the kind of father for his child that he wants you to be to him. So I pray, Lord, that you'd hear my prayer in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
So I will send this to you, and I mean, if you're okay with me sharing it, I think
share it. I was thinking, I was like, man, I don't know that I can bear to watch myself on a video or listen to myself or whatever. Share it. You're fine.
Okay. Well, I think it's,
I don't know anyone will want to listen to it, but if it's anything,
I think there are people out there who will identify with elements of your story and hopefully be encouraged by it, because the elements and the details may differ, but there are certainly other parts of it that they'll, as a pastor, I know, and just as a Christian, I know, it's an anxious world, and we're living in anxious times. And sometimes we just need some encouragement to say, it's okay to trust God. It's okay to believe you're in his hand. And it is, isn't it? Yeah. It is. It's a really big deal. And it's part of why you go to church every week.
It's just part of why you pray. It's there's
part of why you pray.
Just showing up aspect of it.
That's right. It's part of the show up aspect of it, because if we're left to our own devices, we're pretty fickle creatures. And the stability of the weekly rhythm, and it's part of why there's a daily office, and it's all of these things help ground us and say, okay, well, here's a quiet time in my week, here's a quiet time in my day when I can sit down and say, okay, what's really important, and who am I really, and where do I fit in the universe, and how is that going to play out in the rest of the decisions of my day? Like, do the right thing. Truth be told, if I'm in business with someone, I'd like the other person to also sort of share that idea.
Yeah, Paul, and that was something, my little deal. I had a warning sign early on, and I mean, we were out of town in a hotel dealing with some investors on some stuff, and there's a question. My former business partner had gone to Catholic school. He wasn't anything. Do you really believe in all that? I was like, well, yeah, I do. And I felt like it was just such a terrible witness that I did, because I didn't have anything better to say than I do. I mean, so that's kind of one thing. Like, well, next time I'm confronted with that question, I need to have a little bit better answer than yes, but
Well, actually, the way you live your life is a lot of the answer anyway, and it sounds like you're.
It really is. I mean,
putting it together.
Well, that's what I'm working on, at least. I mean, I don't do a very good job of it, but I try at least. So,
Well, it was a delight to talk to you, Nathan. And I'm
Pastor,
sorry.
Paul, it really was. And thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Appreciate what you do. And well, thanks.
It's my pleasure. And having conversations like this, it's why I do this, and I really enjoy it. So thank you.
All right. Well, have a wonderful day.
Okay, you too.
We'll see you.
Bye-bye.